Hello everyone, this is the Inside Web3 podcast show with Pigman.
And people, and also the fact of projects that are actually focused around utility. I think it speaks to the recruitment that she's doing, which is also very kind of poignant in what Cool is doing as well. We also are, we're in the space of obviously quite a serious utility project, and it's interesting because I think it's not just Cool. I mean, there's many projects this past year that have launched, which are also facing very similar challenges to us, where it's a case of we want to be regulated and we want to ensure that everything is done right. But then it's also a case of ensuring that the regulators are moving at a fast enough pace to keep up with us. And I think that's going to be the everlasting, tricky, boxing match, and that will exist in the Web3 space. And that's what I think I'd say from our perspective. I think that's on a more serious note. I think on a lighter note, it's just the fact of challenging the investment mindset and the actual mindset within crypto. I think a lot of people see it as a get rich quick scheme. I think that needs to stop. I think it's unhealthy, and I think when you're focusing on actually building a real use case and a real project and something that can really change lives, um, I think then that the byproduct of that becomes the chart, and the byproduct becomes the actual what you're building. If you just focus on fundamentals and you could focus on building, honestly, that's the absolutely main thing, and that's how you then survive cycles. Cool has been building now over literally both bear and bull cycle, and so what's kept us going is the passion of actually being able to say that what we're doing is changing lives, and that's something then that's much more broad and a lot deeper than just looking at a chart. I'll pass it over to Lumi.
Yeah, I can really relate to everything that you have said, and it's the same challenge for us. I think the main challenge is just how fluid and volatile everything still is. I mean, the pace is really relentless. Just when you think that you're getting somewhere, then the narrative shifts overnight, and protocols really evolve in real time. And again, we've seen that what's cutting edge today, like we were in the NFT eras not even too many years ago, that might be quite irrelevant tomorrow. So the very challenge is this draw that I think it really forces you. It forces the technology, and it forces us as the the people serving this technology to stay sharp and to really think independently, to build. We are building our products too, in our recruitment agency. If you check our website, you see that we're also building products that better serve the place. We have an accelerator program, and we have the people platform that we're trying to build. So I think if you're building with conviction in a space that's still defining itself, that's the way to go. So essentially, there's no script, and that's what makes this space so alive, but it's also challenging. And I guess looking back, one of our biggest challenges is just this, yeah, the ups and downs. And we've seen, when things go well, there's a lot of marketing roles out there, there's a lot of BD roles, there's a lot of social media roles, and the minute there's again fear in the sector, people are holding on tight, all those roles disappear. And I think that's very disappointing for me when I advertise a role one day, a marketing role, and then it's getting pulled because of the fear of potentially things not going right, and then dealing with rejections and dealing with having to tell people it is not working out and so on. So that's a big challenge. And looking back again, what comes to mind is 2021, 2022. At the end of 2020, it was the FTX debacle, and everything kind of went down. We just hired people, we were going really well, and then obviously everything constricted again, and we had to lay people off and go lean and adapt and so on. So we are hoping that now, like Taran said, it's just a matter of bracing for the long run. The technology is here to stay. Projects are building meaningful things, and we just need to be part of that and keep up in a good way with the sector.
Okay, you want to say something, Tyler? Go on, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can only imagine what it must be like running a recruitment firm in Web3. Well, it should probably, I can imagine clients are probably, going crazy during a bull run, and then literally towards the end of the bull run, they start pulling funds because they're thinking about. And I think that's that's also why so many like companies now. I mean, there's so many companies that are structuring in a way where they're actually not just relying on funds from Web3. They're actually relying on a lot of funds from different avenues, and just to kind of, if you like, keep themselves afloat, because otherwise your business model is just centered around speculation in a sense, which is as you can imagine, that's probably what you're alluding to. It's quite scary for the industry.
Yes.
So the whole thing, especially the point you made, Tyron, regards to the challenges when it comes to regulations, which is pretty much hitting people who want to really come out. Like we also at the Premium have had our own regulatory challenges, which we are also pushing on. You got the EU, RICA and all this stuff, and you've got other regulatory bodies who are making sure that people come out and do the right thing, and building upon what you said, fundamentals, which is very important, very key, and all like what's happening with the hype and all this stuff. Soft terms is very important. Sustainability is very important, and I believe when the group begin to change the perspective um, on hype and speculations and begin to be more fundamental in their dealing here on the Web3 space, w- we'll be seeing more projects that are doing incredible things, amazing things. Utility will be seeing such a project, being supported by the community rather than projects that are, moved by hype and just speculations and you got meme coin and all this stuff. They all have their places, but in order for the Web3 to move forward. Education is key, which is number one, because right now we are at the point where many who have come, although we're seeing it changing with a lot of discussions like these, people come and they have been educated, and even in regards to what Lumi has said in her own sector, where you've got the bull market, you've got the bear market, and because people are really moved by these swings, you see certain things, you see how it affect them and bring such challenges in even in what they do here in Web3. So for me, the space continue to evolve. We will definitely not be here in the next 10 years. We'll definitely see more progress, and that is the hope. That is why we're here, making things better by the little we do. So quickly, I will move to the next question. Here on my list, and it's on mainstream adoption. Tyron, you would like to go first? Well, I mean, when it comes to mainstream adoption, what do you think? I mean, the key development. What do you believe will push, Web3 companies, into mainstream adoption? So, what's your take on that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's three things. One is the actual ease of use. That's just for, I think, rather than that's B2, it's B2C. I think once the ease of use is there and we have a frictionless way of operating with Web3 technology, it just makes life a lot easier. I think that will definitely, allow for mainstream adoption to occur at a lot faster rate. I think the second thing is, I think regulation's super important, to be honest. I think without that, we're not going to see what mainstream adoption, without institutions buying in, without larger entities essentially getting on board and integrating the tech, we're not going to see that. And I think the third thing is just sentiment. I mean, at the minute, we see even Bitcoin, if we look at, for example, Bitcoin, amidst all the tariffs, amidst all the fear, and amidst, S&P crashing, Chinese stock market crashing, etc. Um, I use crashing loosely here, but in terms of, them actually fluctuating quite largely in price, I'd say, um, I'd argue that actually Bitcoin's price was actually relatively stable, was actually really strong, and that's a really strong indicator actually that amidst all the crisis of the current financial situation of the world, with Bitcoin's price holding actually quite strong, I'd say that actually people are seeing this as a really viable asset class that they're going to use as part of their diversification strategy. And so because of that, then what that then means is the sentiment around crypto is changing. Before, it used to be a very, as I mentioned right at the start of the call, it used to be a very kind of thing where it was just the case of, is it a scam? Is it not? Is it a rug pull? Is it not? There was so much I'd say negative sentiment in the space, and now it's really changed. It's changed to, I'd say, yeah, I'd actually agree with Lumi's comments really earlier. There's been a shift in culture here towards something that's more transparent, where people are actually more, I think, in tune with not only what they're investing with, but also what's happening with their investment as well. If people are investing in something now which could potentially cause harm to communities around the world, or could potentially cause negative impacts, then I think that people would probably want to move away from that particular type of investment. So those would be the three things for me that I think is going to really kind of, if you like, fast forward the case of adoption here.
Yeah. Oh, I love the part of regulation, key, very key, and I know we're trying to do things. So Louis, over to you. What's your take on this? Your comment?
Yes. Yes, very, very similar points to the ones that you both have already made. So in my opinion, the next wave just cannot be driven by hype. It has to be driven by understanding. And in order to do that, I think education, like you said it yourself, education is really the bridge. So if we want long-term adoption, we need to stop expecting users to adapt to crypto and start making crypto legible to them. So what comes with that is real case utility. We've been mentioning that, understanding how it works, stability. I think these are the most important points that are leading us to this mainstream adoption, which is what we have been waiting for. And in regards to another really important element, I think, when we see so many rug pulls and so many scams and so many things that really kind of shake the trust in the sector, I think the most important thing, again, will be rebuilding that trust at scale and, starting using crypto for real stuff, getting paid, saving money, running businesses, and seeing how it actually works better than what we had before. This is what would lead to adoption for me.
Yeah, exactly, Louis. You nailed it. Especially when you said the next wave will be, will be made by understanding, and I really love that statement alone. Like, because we had a lot of wave, but they were, as we all know, built on hype and all this stuff. But the next wave, indeed, is going to be more balanced. So I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. And I believe that the listeners are really, really getting a more powerful insight from you both on this particular subject topic. So I would go to my next question. It's on real asset tokenization and also on AI. Like um I just want to know your own opinion on this. I mean, these two are becoming hot topics, and so I just don't. For you, why do you see this two? Or depending on what you want to pick on, be it AI or reward as tokenization, how do you see any of this hot topic shaping Web3, the future of Web3? Tyron.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think with I can speak to RWAs, and I can probably go into a bit into AI as well. I think, well, I'll go into AI first. Actually, I think AI is a massive enabler. I think many people saw AI as a means of, it's replacing jobs. I'd actually disagree. I'd say that it's going to massively enable um productivity, and I think that people will use AI depending on their own skill. And so it's a massive enabler to people actually being more efficient and to actually being able to, do something at a much higher level. With asset tokenization, with RWAs, I think that there's many people that are doing RWAs very differently. Some people, for example, fractionalize ownership. Some people will tokenize, for example, NFTs, or well, NFTs are, I guess, arguably a form of tokenization anyway. But it's interesting because there's so many different types of tokenization, and if I'm being completely honest, I think that there's many that are good and there's many that are actually quite bad. And I won't go into the bad. What I will say is that Kula's approach to tokenization is very different for a particular purpose. And the reason for that is because what we do is we tokenize the governance around assets that we've actually secured equity in. That's really key. That's our big USP and our secret sauce, because there's many disadvantages to fractionalized ownership, which we can talk about at another space, which I won't go into. What I think with tokenization, I think that it's unlocking a lot of types of investment, and it's unlocking particular asset classes which were once illiquid, bringing them on chain in a way which actually now is offering 24/7 trading. I think that's absolutely superb. In Kula's use case, as an example, we're able to now tokenize assets which were once underground. We're actually able to put value on them, and what was once an illiquid asset, we can now make liquid that we can actually collateralize against. So there's many advantages of tokenization. I know you mentioned tokenization of bonds and gold right at the start of the call. Again, the biggest things there being this idea of efficiency, liquidity, and also this idea you can also trade it 24/7. And I think that we're going to really see an increased use case for tokenization as the years go on. That I do agree with, but I think the Chinso, both your comments and both Lumi's comments, in terms of it's only really going to occur at a fast rate if it's made a lot more easier for the retailer. If it's difficult for businesses to adopt, and if it's not bought into kind of what they see as the normal working practice for something, then they just simply won't do it. And an example of that's going to be how we pay. At the minute, we're paying using a Visa system, and we're using like Apple Pay to just tap our phones, right? And I can imagine a system probably in a couple of years where what's sitting behind that is actually blockchain technology. But we're still going to be using Apple Pay and Google Pay, or whatever it is that people use to tap the devices. So that doesn't mean they need to start transferring Bitcoin, or they need to start transferring ETH or SOL or AVAX or whatever it is, and to actually pay using cryptocurrency. I think that we're going to have the same purchases that we have, but sitting behind it, which would be a different technology. So the use of the UX is going to be the exact same. It's going to be the back end, which will be different. Those are my thoughts. I'll pass it over to Lumi.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And obviously, RWAs and tokenization is a huge subject. Everyone is talking about it. We have quite a few clients that are focusing on that sector and so on. No doubt, it is bringing the real world utility that we were talking about, and it's essentially turning the real world assets, like you said yourself, like gold, real estate, anything really, into tokens. And I think that will make the sector have that real case use scenarios that we were talking about. So definitely a huge topic. I think it's just the beginning of it. I think we'll see a lot more. Like you said, not all of it is good, but I think most of it is looking promising. And in terms of AI, definitely, we cannot deny that it's not here to stay. I think we should look at it as a convergence between intelligent systems and tangible assets. So I think AI will be around everything we do, and if we use it right, it can really help us. There's this convergence between AI, blockchain. We're placing quite a few roles in this spot, where AI and blockchain startups work with tokenized finance platforms, and really produce something that is of use and that is really valuable to the sector. So yeah, my opinion is that obviously we cannot ignore these two elements, this is where everything is going. There's a huge focus on it, and I'm curious to see how it will play out.
You guys have said a lot. AI, reward assets, this integration, I mean, is one that is so hot that no one can ignore because it's really going to shape the future of Web3. For me, I believe AI in itself, it's going to, in a way, scale Web3 to be more faster, should be more efficient. And that is my belief. That is what I see happening around. That is what I see people should be focused on. On solving problems with AI within the space. And we've got, AI agent, protocols that are going into this. You would see AI, in fact, used for community moderations. It's already happening. I know of projects who are doing that. Even on social media, platforms, social fire platforms where AI are being used, integrated, within Web3 projects or social fire communities for agent for moderation. We're also seeing, them acting assistants on platforms and all those stuff. So if we cannot really you know totally talk about the advantages of what this whole AI can do. I'm talking about the AI side and looking at the reward asset side. You're seeing a lot of things happening. Ripple, in fact, is pushing for real asset tokenization of recent. They have been making moves, serious moves on reward asset tokenization. Kolai is on their way to being the leaders, I believe, in this. And even Masterpreneur also is also on how we're looking into, I would say, reward asset optimization on of gold itself, or what we're doing related. So a lot indeed, is on this topic. It's a very hard topic. I'm personally looking into such hard topics like this because this is what is going to shake Web3 and even bring more mass adoption. That is my take on this. Well, we've really said a lot on this show on the Inside Web3 and podcast, and I believe the listeners have been able to really learn a lot from what you guys have said. Seriously, a lot have been said. No powerful insight. I cannot deny that. And if you listening to us, you just give do some love emoji to the speakers. It's not easy being a speaker and bringing out because this is what we need. We need people who can talk and really tell us what Web3 is really all about because knowledge is power. That is how we in the space. That is how we move forward in life, and that is what we're doing here. So, um, trying to round up with this section, I would go next to hearing your final takeaway, and let's start with Yumi this time. Let's start with Lumi. Lumi, what's your one piece of advice you can give to Web3 days in Web3, be them a builder, investor, or newbie, whatever they're doing, everyone flocking into Web3, being in Web3 as a whole. What's the advice? If you can even relate it to career, I would be very grateful that you can actually you doing that, in that perspective. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So I think if you're a builder and you're building something now, an important thing to keep in mind is to build with your community, not just for it. Meaning, really include your community in what you're building. Find out if your product is solving real problems. Find out if it is sustainable. Find out if the community finds it useful. So build with your community. This is what I always say. And I think from a career point of view, yes, Web3 is a tricky sector, but it's also very rewarding. So if you want to get into Web3, and this is a question that I get all the time, every day, how can I get into Web3? I don't have experience in it, but I want to get in it. So I think what I always say to candidates that come to me with that is just immerse yourself in it. Stay curious, stay nimble, learn, do some blockchain courses, offer your services, even pro bono, to projects that really interest you, to ideas that really appeal to you, to just get in it slowly. It's a hard sector to get into because everybody wants commercial experience, and it's still a young sector. But if you really want to get in it, network, be part of a community, immerse yourself in the learning, stay curious, stay nimble, and it will happen. And in regards of Web3, I guess the final takeout for me is that yes, it's not about hype anymore. It's about long term. It's about it's about trust, sustainability, and solving real problems. So as long as we keep that in mind, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's exactly at the long term, and everyone should be looking at it from that angle. So Tyran, let's have your own view, your final takeaway. Yeah.
Let's be honest, it's very much aligned with Lumi. I think that we need to. I think the main thing here is that I think, for example, from a marketing point of view, so we're having marketing a cooler, an example, something which has got both utility in the real world and also utility in Web3. I think it's understanding how you market then to both the traditional markets and also marketing in the Web3 sector. The interesting, and they are very completely different. Yes, they have a few overlaps, but it's also very different. I'd say that it's about moving very quickly and also thinking on your feet all the time, because there isn't a strategy that works one day that will then continue working. Um, and for example, you can't do traditional marketing. In traditional marketing, you could do things like advertisements, you could do Google ads, you can do, for example, PMAX campaigns and this the SEO and so many different things. But this doesn't work for crypto because you'll end up getting your account banned. So you have to then think of innovative ways. And I think I think Lumi mentioned about this idea of, building with the community. That's very important. And how do you then market that? That's also another question. How can you then market the aspect of you want to build with the community to then actually enable your community to participate in the first place? So all of these different things, and I think that the key here is to actually make it fun for the community to participate. You can gamify things. You can um have for them ways in which they can participate, get rewards and things like that. But then also bearing in mind, actually, by the end of the day, you want them to participate in the ecosystem of their own accord, not just through an award incentive. So that might be a good place to start to begin with, but that's not a long-term sustainable strategy as well. My advice for anybody getting into the space is, hey, be gold. And yeah, I agree. Just throw yourself in there. I mean, from myself and my perspective, I didn't have any previous Web3 experience. And yes, I've got quite a deep hand in marketing, but um, I I was literally immersed in the space. I'm someone who, regardless of what I'm doing, I'm always up to date with kind of current trends, current and for example current news on cryptography and also wider market, because that then affects Twitter. And so my advice to anyone who's thinking of joining the space or thinking of how to get into the space would pretty much align with what's really been said, is that hey, just throw yourself in and I think find something, that really drives you and that you have passion for, because then naturally you'll start working out in your own head how your skills align to that particular project. And um, if it's a value aligned system and your values align, then that's always a good way to go.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tyron. Find something that really aligns, with you. It's a very wide space. Be bold. What you get is a lot, and I believe everyone listening is also receiving what Tyron is saying, because these are individuals who have made quite a journey in the space, and they tell you things out of experience. So to everyone listening out there, to everyone listening to this podcast show, immerse yourself into the space, align yourself with what you know how to do best, your passion clings to. Very important, because this is going to bring out your potential in the space. So many of us have seen the stories, and I've personally got my own stories. Well, I'm not here to share that, so I'm only here to listen to what my guest speakers have to say. I really appreciate you guys. You guys have done so well on this.